Welcome back. In this episode, we are going to explain how to increase your rate of return on your money with low risk. And I'm going to turn time over to my son, a co-author on a couple of our best-selling books. This is Aaron Andrew. He's one of the top wealth strategists in America, and he understands this extremely well. That's why I'm going to turn it over to him to talk about multipliers, performance factors. So put your seatbelt on. You're going to be blown away with what you learn here.
Hi, Aaron Andrew here. Going to talk to you today about how to increase your rate of return with low risk. So there's some real powerful strategies. Hope you've seen some of the other videos talking about indexing and how these strategies work. So I'm going to get a little bit more detailed. This is going to be kind of a little more advanced, kind of supercharging your return. We kind of call this, this is the new really innovative features that have come out with these insurance companies to enhance the return inside of these IULs or Indexed Universal Life. Once again, only a few companies have these strategies, and those that do, you want to choose the right one. So real important that you choose the right company, and that's what we can help you with, of course, and which we'll get into more in detail, more one-on-one. But I want to teach you and explain what these multipliers are. So I'm going to call these multipliers or performance factors, or they're called different things, but let's just call it a multiplier because we understand that term. We're going to multiply our return. So first of all, indexing, just a quick kind of summary, is we're talking about zero's the hero once again. You can't lose with indexing. You got zero on the downside, and then you can typically earn up to a cap, or you have one, for example, that has no cap on the upside, but you take 5 points off the top. We call that a 5% threshold. Then there's others that have a cap of 12% or 25% over 2 years. So there's different strategies out there of indexing, but now let's talk about these multipliers and how we can multiply your return. So what they've done to kind of enhance it for you or supercharge your returns is with these multipliers. So let's just use one company's example, or a few out there that, let's say that one of them will have a fee. These are called a rider fee, by the way. So usually people say, oh, fee, oh no, that's going to add more cost. Yes, you have to be willing to pay an extra cost to supercharge your return. So what the company's doing, let me just put it here on the board, is they're going to say, all right, the fee is going to be, let's say, 7.5%. There's others, by the way, that the fee is maybe 2% or 3% or around 5%. Others like change it through the years. So really, every company and product is going to be a little different. But let's use the one that I like the most, that kind of supercharges it the most. We're going to go to kind of the extreme. But the rider fee for this is going to be about 7.5% in given years. So yeah, if we have $100,000 in there, we're talking $7,500. All right, so it's going to be 7.5% of your account value or accumulation value inside your IUL. Now, that fee is not used for any profit or commissions or anything, any fees or profit for the insurance company. Contractually, this has to be used for options and hedging to supercharge your return. So the company is basically already what they're doing with indexing. They're just going to supercharge it now. And they say, hey, why don't we just charge an extra fee? That gives us more money to supercharge the return. So, for example, 7.5 fee, that's going to give you a multiplier of 2.7 times your return. So this is really cool. They're going to charge you 7.5, but they're going to multiply your return by 2.7. They know with options and hedging that they can get that with whatever index strategy we're choosing. So let's do a little bit of math here. So let's say that your return with indexing is 10%. The S&P, you get a 10% return with the way indexing works. Well, if you didn't have this feature, because the cool thing is with most of these products, you can turn it on and off each year, so you don't have to have this on in certain years if you don't want to. But here, we're going to have a 10% return. If we had this going, we're going to now multiply our return, so times that by 2.7. So of course, what's that? We're using simple math here. 27% return. So we're talking 27% return now, but what did we have to pay to get that? 7.5. So you subtract the 7.5, and we're going to net, of course, about 19.5% return net. Just kind of keeping it simple. That's what we're going to net in this example after the fee. So instead of getting 10, we're getting 19.5 net. Now, of course, you're already probably thinking, but, what about when the market crashes? Yes, when the market crashes, and let's say like 2008, the market went down to negative 40%, You still get, with indexing, 0 is the hero. You cannot lose guaranteed. But if you had this rider on, yes, you would have an extra fee of 7.5%. So technically you would go down by another 7.5% because of that fee that year in a 0 year. But let's talk about 2009. So one of my favorite strategies is what we call the no cap. The no cap, where you have you just take off 5% off the top. It's called the 5% threshold. So if the S&P goes up 25, you get 20. If it goes up 15, you get 10. If it goes up 7, you get 2. So yeah, it's not the only strategy, but it's one of the most powerful with this feature. So let's just use that example. Let's say back in 2008, the market went down -40, so you get 0. You had the fee of 7.5. 2009 now, the market went up 28.27. So 28.27. I'm using a December 15th date, by the way, if anyone's looking at the S&P. I'm not using December 31st. So December 15th is the way this company uses it. So 28%. Now you take 5 off the top, so we're going to be getting 23.27. That's what you would get if you didn't have this feature going. But now that 23.27, we're going to times that by 2.7. Well, net of the fee, okay, because you got to subtract the 7.5 as well. Well, it's going to be 62. Let's just do the full math. So 62.83% would be your return. Minus the fee, of course, we're looking at 55.33%. So I'm going to do that kind of quick, but 23%, times 2.7 is going to get us 62. And then, of course, we got to subtract out the 7.5 fee we had to pay to get there. 55% return. Tax-free with this strategy inside of an IUL. So that's pretty cool that in 2008, -7.5, 2009, 55% return tax-free. So looking at this historically, about the last 40 years, the one that has no cap and you take off 5 off the top and you get 0 as the hero, that indexing strategy we've talked about in other videos, the last 40 years would have been about just under 9%. Well, guess what? With this multiplier, using the fee and getting the 2.7 multiplier, your average return would be more around 14%, your compounded average return, factoring in the negative years where you would have a -7.5 due to the fee on those the bad years. So this really can supercharge your returns, where other strategies where you have a 12% cap, or there's a 2-year account that has a 25% cap, where you can supercharge your return by 2.7 times for that 7.5 fee. Like I said, there's others out there where you can have a 5% charge to have like a 2.14 multiplier. Or there's others that will be like a 3% charge, or maybe a 1.5 charge. So there's different ones out there, but this is just a cool, innovative way that companies have come out with to say, hey, you want to supercharge your return? Pay extra fee, we'll buy more options, and we can supercharge your return up to 2.7 times. There's times in history where you could earn, I think there's a time in the 50s, we could have earned up to 120% return in a given year. And again, on the bad years, what's the worst case scenario? 0 is the hero, with the fee, a -7.5. So the average compounded returns, supercharge them up about, anywhere from 1 to 3 to 4, 5% higher average compounded with these multipliers turned on. So that is the powerful supercharging feature that is out there today. So what does this mean for you? So with this strategy, it is so powerful to supercharge your return. Think of it as multiplying or supercharging your return for retirement. So if you were preparing for retirement and wanted to say, hey, I want to add a little bit more, or I want to be able to increase the income or the potential of the returns, that's what we're kind of doing here. Is you're saying, hey, instead of being able to take out $90,000 a year, you might be able to take out like $140,000 a year tax-free with this strategy. Or my returns, instead of being average returns of 6 to 9%, let's say, you're going to be more like 9 to 14% average return tax-free, which can really enhance your income tax-free with this strategy.
So was that powerful or what? Hopefully what you understood, that if you want to just sort of be conservative, let's say by using indexing, and you use the no cap, after 2008, of not losing money, chose the regular indexing strategy where 0 is the hero. But in 2009, then people made almost 22% by using just the regular strategy. But if you're willing to have an extra fee, you don't lose 40% like most Americans did. You would just have a fee of maybe 7.5%, but all of a sudden, The rate of return in 2009 skyrockets to 55%. It's incredible. So if you want to learn more about this in depth, we would strongly recommend you learn. We wrote this book called The Laser Fund, and I would love to gift you a copy of this absolutely free. Aaron is a co-author. We also have master classes and mini classes that Aaron has taught, and all three of us. And so if you go to laserfund.com, you pay a nominal shipping and handling fee, and I'll fire one of these out to you to read and learn. We have charts, graphs, and also 62 actual client stories. And you'll have opportunities to be able to learn from several other deep dives that we take with master classes if you would like. But thank you, Aaron, for explaining that dynamic concept. Most advisors have no clue how to do what he just explained.